Welcome to the SharkPreneur podcast with Kevin Harrington and Seth Greene. Kevin Harrington is the inventor of the infomercial, one of the original sharks from the hit TV show Shark Tank, and has generated over $5 billion in TV and digital direct response sales. Seth Greene is the world's first trusted authority on cutting-edge direct response marketing, a best-selling author, and the only 3-time Marketer of the Year nominee. On the podcast, Kevin and Seth interview sharkpreneurs who share straight talk on what it takes to explode your business.
Do you want to become insanely successful? Do you want to be the go-to guru in your industry? Do you want to be talked about for all the right reasons? For over 40 years, Kevin Harrington has helped people just like you become significant influencers. Now he's broken the process down in the Key Person of Influence Roadmap, and it's yours for free. Just text KPI to him at 727-888-2100. Text KPI to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free step-by-step guide. Text KPI to 727-888-2100 to get the recognition you deserve and experience the success as the go-to voice everyone listens to in your industry today.
Welcome to the SharkPreneur podcast. This is your co-host, Seth Greene. With me today is Charlie Hartwell, the managing partner of Bridge Builders Collaborative, a group of highly successful investors who've been investing in startup companies in the space of mental wellness, conscious, and spirituality, which on this show is not a niche we hear about investors specifically seeking out on a daily basis. So I'm super excited. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us.
Seth, it's good to be here. I'm glad to be a different kind of guest, I guess.
Well, we have lots of funds, lots of people who invest in companies, but we've never, 400 plus episodes, we've never had anyone specifically focused on the niche that you're in. So that's awesome. I know you weren't always a successful investor. Let's go back in time a little bit. You started out at Harvard Business School, and then take us through a little bit of the journey from the slums of Kenya to where we are now.
Yeah, so when I got out of college, my first job was I worked on Wall Street managing money during the day, and I started a nonprofit in the slums of Kenya at night. Then I went to Harvard Business School. I've worked in 14 different industries in my career, including consumer goods marketing, including sort of startups, big companies, small companies, nonprofits, for-profits. The last company that I was involved with before starting at Bridge Builders 9 years ago was a turnaround situation. I was a CEO of an innovation consulting firm working with Fortune 500 companies. I was hired to help turn it around and sell it. It got sold, and then I got introduced to what I'm doing now, and I've been doing that for 9 years.
All right, so that is one heck of a journey, and the longer version, if it isn't, should probably be in a book, because obviously it would take longer than 2 minutes. So how does one, if you're working on Wall Street managing money, working to be a master of the universe, as it was called back then, how does one then decide to start a nonprofit in the slums of Kenya at the same time?
So I spent a year after college, before starting my job in New York. I traveled around the world, and I got remote, sort of odd jobs in remote places. And the last stop was in Nairobi, where I worked in the slums as a social worker for 3 months. I came to understand that I didn't like social work, but I wanted to do something to use my talents to change the situation. So the best way I could figure out to do that was to start the nonprofit, to be able to help people through entrepreneurship more than social work.
Okay. And then obviously we're going to fast forward to today. We talked about how Bridge Builders is a group of investors investing in startups in a specific space. What change are you guys trying to make in the world?
So we're interested in a world with greater mental well-being, where people are more conscious, more aware, living more to their purpose, more in touch with themselves, with their inner selves, and living happier, healthier lives in healthier communities.
And how did you and your partners decide that was a niche you wanted to specifically invest in?
There were 3 partners who came together, 10 years ago. They had seen the science of contemplative contemplative studies get to a point where they thought, they asked themselves the question as to whether there would be anything to invest in to help bring that science to scale. And in order to do that, they needed somebody, to be what they call their collaborative glue, or the operating partner. My wife had introduced me to this space, a year and a half ago through something called the Mind and Life Institute. So I got connected to my partners through that, and they and so at a time when no one had really heard of mindfulness, they asked me to go out and see if there was anything to invest in that space. And over the last 9 years, I've now looked at about 1,000 companies in that space, and the field has grown considerably. And we've become, as I saw in a report the other day, we've invested in more mental well-being startups than any VC in the world that I know of. So it's really fun. It's really fun work, and the industry is growing very rapidly.
Absolutely. And you've had a heck of a track record investing in companies that are now household names in the space, like Headspace or Happify. How do you source deals specifically in that space? Because it's not one that you read about in the VC papers or the journals or in the Wall Street Journal every day, or in any of the funding listing websites. How do you source investments?
Actually, there's a couple different ways. One of the things about our collaborative is that we're really well networked with some of the world's leading scientists, spiritual leaders, entrepreneurs, and VCs and companies. So actually, when somebody comes up with a concept, that has a deal, we naturally see most of those deals because we've developed a really good brand reputation as somebody that's great to invest with. And so the deal flow for us is not something, we don't seek new deals. They normally come at us.
So you're practicing what some of your clients and probably teach about, manifesting and attraction and it showing up for you. And that's when you take a company like Headspace, that is probably the one a lot of our listeners are familiar with. It started out as an app. How do you add value to that?
Yeah, I'm actually going to take Happify as a better example. I'm sorry that my phone's going off. I'll turn that off. So the first thing that I'll say is, when we make an investment in a company, our goal is to be a very value-added investor. So Happify, we invested when there were 2 million consumers that had downloaded the product, and then all of a sudden, after we invested, they started getting calls from Fortune 500 companies saying, "Wow, we're hearing about this. We want to use this." So we not only helped them to kind of think about a different business model, but we made some great connections to them that helped develop relationships that have been transformational for the business. We try to serve, we add value by being a resource where they can talk about what's happening in their company. And because my partners, and there are 7 of them, have had pretty remarkable business careers, we can provide, advice from our experience to entrepreneurs as their business shifts and changes. We can help with, thinking of strategy, thinking of new ideas, thinking of innovation, and making connections.
That makes a lot of sense. One of your claims to the firm's claims to fame is obviously they say a lot, they want to go deeper. What does that mean?
So for the last 7 years, probably, companies in our platform, probably 100 million people now meditating that weren't meditating just on these platforms. So, what we've been able to help people do is to provide invitations to sit and meditate for 10 minutes a day. So for a lot of people, they've experienced less stress because of that. They've been, they've learned to breathe. There's definitely benefits from that. But 2 years ago, my wife said to me, "Charlie, you've been investing in sort of the gateway drugs to higher levels of consciousness. And it's time to go
awesome.
deeper."
I love that.
And when I'm smart, I listen to my wife, and I did, and we set that intentionality, and then new partners showed up for us that were interested in going deeper. So I defined it deeper as going deeper into the human experience, deeper into the trauma that actually creates mental health problems, deeper in understanding who you are, what's your purpose, why are you here, in this lifetime. How can you be more connected to yourself? How can you be more connected to others? And so we began to look at different areas of investment than we had in the past, to help provide those invitations for people willing and wanting to go deeper.
That makes a lot of sense. You've achieved some incredible successes over the years. What's your biggest challenge now?
That's a good question. So I think the biggest challenge right now is kind of time management. Where do you find energy? Because the field has grown so much that literally, there's so many companies being formed that how do you take a look, at those companies and quickly sift through the ones that are going to be spot on for our investment thesis and the types of entrepreneurs that we look for. And then how do we get networked in the new areas that we're looking at and become experts in those new areas, so that we can add value to those areas. So I think those are, I look at those as opportunities, not challenges, but that's kind of what I'm up against right now.
That's really interesting. So do you have in your, obviously you've got a vetting process to narrow down, hey, these automatically get rejected. These are deals that are worth looking at. What are some of those trigger questions that the wrong answer immediately disqualifies someone?
So if somebody comes to us with a new mindfulness app, for instance, it's pretty much that's pretty much a no. There are now 1,000 mindfulness apps, and the thought that someone is going to be able to create a new one to be a major player in the space just isn't. We see it as unlikely, and we've made several investments in that space. A lot of people want us to engage earlier than we normally do, so they're just starting something up. We prefer to see businesses where they have either a very large community or they have a $1 million run rate, and so that we're spending our time helping with growth capital as opposed to helping somebody figure out what their business model is.
That makes a lot of sense. When you say they have a large community, that could mean different things to different people. What is your definition of a community that would get you to pay attention?
I'd say, hundreds of thousands would be interesting to us. We don't very often invest, without a large community. We made one investment in a company called Insight Timer, which at the time had about 5 million people that had downloaded, and they were completely free. And we said, okay, this community, so they had no revenue, but they wanted to launch revenue in support of their community and the teachers on the platform. And so we invested in that company, since grown to 15 million people, and now has revenue. But we want to see significant communities where it's not like, hey, we've got our beta testers, we've got a few hundred people. It's really for us when you can see that it's a large and growing community.
Okay. And we're talking about obviously some of the successes. Tell me about you don't have to name names, but tell me about some of the lessons you've learned from some of the deals that didn't work out.
So first of all, so kind of remarkably, so we've made 15 investments and they all are still operating, and actually they're all still growing.
I was gonna say that's a track record any VC would be jealous of. Yeah.
There are some that have been highly successful, and I think about 5 of those are valued above 300 million today. So 5 out of, and some of them are very early, for us, so that we just started with them. But to answer your question, the biggest learning maybe in this is really about, are you picking the entrepreneur that can take the concept that they have and the passion that they have and really be not only able to grow that, but able to find resources that allow them to grow that. And I think if there's any mistakes along the way. It could be like hoping somebody could do something that you weren't really 100% sure of, and you were, and really seeing whether somebody had not only the passion for what they were doing, which we wouldn't invest without that, but then whether or not they actually have the capability to grow it into, into something that's globally scalable.
And then how does your experience, obviously, when you started in Kenya, completely different from Wall Street, and then inspiring kind of what you're doing now, is there any portion of the investments that you're making that are addressing different types of challenges in, let's say, less developed countries like places like Kenya?
Yeah, I was talking about Insight Timer before.
Yes.
So what I love about that platform is it has, 15 million people from all around the world and 6,000 spiritual teachers, scientists, musicians, all teaching in their native language. And the platform has 40,000 free meditations available in 44 languages. So it is absolutely accessible to anyone in the world. There is a challenge, when you get to Africa specifically. There are people in just about every country in Africa that are on the platform, but the accessibility of technology becomes a problem there. But I am pretty sure that over the next little bit of time, they'll add Swahili as a native language. They just need to find a teacher, a spiritual teacher that teaches in Swahili, and they'll put them on the platform. So to me, they just launched a program with the UN and with Lululemon to provide for frontline workers in all countries, to provide meditations in, I can't remember, 10, 12, 14 different languages to be able to help frontline people, all freely accessible. So to me, that is a way that you can impact people, not only in global communities, but that are addressing the problems of global communities.
That makes a lot of sense. Between the 15, if I got that right, 15 investments that you've made, have you calculated what your total reach through all those companies is?
Yeah, I think it's my latest is that, probably about 100 million people have downloaded or used products on those platforms.
Which is absolutely, that's quite a few countries. So that's, the population, that's a third of the United States. So you're a country in and of itself, and a pretty large one. So that's the Bridge Builders country. So that's awesome. Do you have any opportunities, because you have all of these brands in your portfolio, is there like cross-promotional advertising where they're promoting each other? Is there opportunities for other people to buy ads across the platform? How does that network work of the Bridge Builders family?
That's a good question. So we want to look for those opportunities and have the entrepreneurs know each other. I wouldn't say advertising is a way necessarily that they can, a lot of them aren't advertising driven, but there are collaboration opportunities, sometimes with customers, sometimes with teachers, sometimes there are ways that they can work, together on a project to support that. And we don't force that, but we try to do our best job to help them to look for those opportunities and for them to know each other's strengths so that they know where they can leverage each other along the way.
All right. You advise these companies every single day, and you've been advising in one way, shape, or form for most of your career. What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
I'm gonna have to think about that. I don't know if there's one piece of advice that, if I look, so let me just process that for a second.
Sure.
So when I am just being my authentic self, and I understand who I am and kind of the energy I bring to the work that I do, and when I just sit in that, as opposed to doing, when I'm just being, it's remarkable what happens. And I struggle against that sometimes because I've been raised in a culture that's all about doing. It's all about, you've got to be out there, you've got to be, and I find the magic happens when I'm just being with an intention.
Being with an intention. I'd say that's a writer downer. All right. So what's next for Bridge Builders Collaborative? Are you looking to raise more capital? Are you looking, I mean, it sounds like you pretty much have your finger on the pulse of the industry and have no issues sourcing deals. Are you looking for more capital? What kind of is the next step for you?
So a couple next steps on the capital front. We're not a fund. We're 7 investors who share, they're high net worth individuals that have big hearts and want to create impact. And if there are other, high net individuals that want to leverage off of our learning and contribute to making the world a better place and bringing these concepts, we'd be open to having, having others join, but we're not actively seeking that. What we are seeking in this Go Deeper is we've been looking for investments or how we can contribute to the emerging psychedelic movement. That's one area that we're focused on. How can we improve mental health through really well-researched therapy-assisted platforms that, that help people through psychedelics? The research is stunningly good, and it'll go through the psychedelics will go through the FDA process. But that's a place that we're looking to invest in. We're also looking to invest more in social wellness. We made one investment in that space, but we really want to provide invitations for people to connect more deeply to themselves, but also to create authentic communities. And the third is we've been supporting the science behind subtle energy or biofield science. So if you begin to look at the human energy system as something where trained practitioners can help other people just through energetic work. If the science is good enough, then we want to support the application of that science. So we'll look for companies in that space. So more of what we're doing is trying to find the areas that we want to invest in, and really getting to know those areas very well.
Awesome. For our listeners and viewers who want to learn more, where is the best place for them to go?
BB Collaborative is our website. My wife and my website is called Shifted Institute. That's the business that I do this work through. That's all about expanding consciousness, creating paradigm shifts, and inspiring human potential. And, I'm on LinkedIn, so people can find me there as well, Charlie Hartwell.
Awesome. This has been Seth Greene from SharkPreneur with Charlie Hartwell of Bridge Builders Collaborative. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Seth. Appreciate it. Great conversation.
Likewise. Thanks everybody for watching or listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Do you need money to fund your idea, product, or service? Are you ready to take your business to the next level, but need capital to get it done? Kevin Harrington has heard more than 50,000 pitches and knows how to help you make the perfect pitch to get the funding for your entrepreneurial dream. He's distilled the process down in his perfect pitch cheat sheet, and it's yours for free. Just text PITCH to him right now at 727-888-2100. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 right now and claim your free perfect pitch cheat sheet. Text PITCH to 727-888-2100 to start funding your dream today.
This show has been produced by Market Domination, LLC. To discover how you can have your own show completely done for you and turn it into a real published book and become the authority in your marketplace, go to www.marketdominationllc.com/podcast offer.